Howdy, partner. Welcome to one of the most northern parts of the United States of America. Travel with me upriver as we talk to a bunch of ladies and fellers and they share their tales of wit and wisdom. That's right, it's time again for Skagit Storytellers with Liz Rankin.
As you can tell, I don't really care about prepping before the interview. I think it's funner this way. But also, I like to share at the beginning how we met. And I think we just met at Gleaners.
Right.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. We met at Gleaners. When I was there, I think 4 years ago, you were not the head of Gleaners. You were... What was your role?
I started as a office manager and volunteer coordinator, and then a year doing that, I was interim executive director while Megan Anderson was still there, and then I became executive director after about 2 years of being there.
So you're executive director. That's your official title.
Yep.
So I was just talking to, like I said, I had Heidi's interview come out, and we mentioned Gleaners at the beginning, and it reminded me, gosh, I have to talk about Gleaners. I'm shocked I haven't brought that up. And someone just texted me today and said, "Oh, I listened to your podcast. So what's Gleaners about?" And I said,
awesome.
I'm done telling people about it. Just let's go. I'll take you on a tour.
Cool.
Because do you find that too? Like you can explain it to death, but people just have this conception or idea of what it is. But once they get there, they usually say, "Oh, this is not what I thought at all."
Totally. And when I'm like doing presentations or, out in the community, educating people about Gleaners, I always invite them just to come in and tour because it's so hard to articulate what it is with words. You just have to show people sometimes.
Yeah. And I always refer to, like, Megan always talked about, what was it? Come for the pickles, stay for the people. She always said that was like a bumper sticker, for Gleaners. And I'm like, that's so true.
There's been different iterations of that. Yeah. I've always heard people come for the food, but they stay for their friends and the family that they meet there. Yeah. So that's funny.
All right. So how did you become to work at Gleaners? Like what was your progression to that? I guess I'm going to start. Sorry, where are you from?
Okay, sure.
Who is Morgan?
Well, my name is Morgan Curry, and I was born and raised in Mount Vernon. When I was a junior in high school, I changed schools a little bit, and I have always stayed near and around the valley. I did full-time running start at Skagit for a couple years. I did some college at Everett Community College. What eventually brought me, I moved around a little bit. I lived in Oregon. I lived in, I lived in North Carolina for a little bit, just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do right after high school. But I've always been grounded in, leadership type roles. And, it was mostly in upper retail at that time. So when I was 18, I was managing my own store, and I've always just kind of been
a clothing store? Or
yeah, a clothing store. Yeah, I don't know did you ever shop at? Have you ever heard of Echo? It's like a clothing store for men, but it was kind of like baggy pants and little like the Rhino clothing.
No, but I'm sure someone listening has heard of it.
Yeah,
so where was it, in Seattle or?
At the Seattle Premium Outlet Mall. So it was in Marysville.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But I moved around a bit. So like I in that role I would go and open stores across the country and moved around a little bit. Yeah, and I did that. I started doing that pretty young, and that's sort of where I developed this. That's where my leadership journey started, I guess. My paid leadership journey, I guess you could consider. And anyway, I had my daughter when I was 23, and after having my daughter,
wait, how old are you now?
I'm 29.
You're only 29?
Yeah.
Not that you look older. I just thought, just the way you carry yourself, I thought you were at least mid-30s.
Oh yeah. Most people do. I'm 29. Anyway, I had my daughter, and I mean, I wouldn't say that that she was unexpected, but I definitely had her in a time in my life where I wasn't fully prepared. I will say that. Yeah. And so pretty soon after I had my daughter, her dad and I split up. And so I was still working in retail and trying to be a brand new single mom. 23, which like now looking back on it, that's pretty young to like have a kid and not have your stuff together. But I so anyway, I decided that I needed to find a job that was more like family focused. You had time off on the weekends. It was not working retail, which is like every holiday, and and just very,
especially if you're traveling too.
Right. So I just found a job on Craigslist advertising for an office manager role at Skagit Gleaners, and I was like, well, what the heck is Skagit Gleaners? So I went up and I toured it, and I fell in love with it. It totally felt like my calling. And Megan, the executive director at the time, I'm pretty sure she wasn't going to hire me when I really wanted this job as office manager. And I think I harassed her for like 2 or 3 weeks before she finally hired me. You can ask her this story and she's going to have a different version of it. But I remember going in like 3 different times asking her to hire me. And what finally got her to hire me, I think, was I told her, if you just give me 2 weeks, I'll follow you around with a clipboard and then I'll know what my job is. Like, you don't have to write me a job description. Like, I'll submit my own new hire paperwork. You just got to hire me. And that's how much I knew I needed this job. Or like, I just knew that I was supposed to be there. So anyway, I started working there, and then a year after being there, Megan had decided it was her time to retire. And so then we did a year of me being interim executive director. And then when I was 25, I became the executive director, and I've been doing that for the last 4 years as the executive director, and I've been working there for a total of 6 years.
And I think you came on as head was it right before COVID?
6 months before COVID.
I remember, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was quite a daunting time.
So. Megan's like, I can't help you. I don't know. Like that.
Yeah, and
this has not happened before.
It's kind of. I think it's kind of a good thing that it happened the way it did, because I was new to the role. I had energy. Like, it was a challenge, and
right.
And in my opinion, I mean, COVID was very unfortunate, but in my opinion, I learned a lot. Like, that was a big period of growth for me, running a food program during a very unprecedented time in our community. So I take it as just an opportunity for me to really. It was a catalyst to my leadership now. So anyway,
that's awesome.
I mean, COVID sucked. I won't say that COVID is fine, because it's not. But I'm trying to find the silver lining here.
Yeah. No, I do that too. It's rare to find someone who also does that. So that's awesome. You were saying when I saw you at Gleaners the other day, and I said, hey, you should come on and talk about Gleaners. You also mentioned that you were just you just hosted a free grant writing class?
Yeah.
What was that called?
Yeah. So for the last couple years, I've been the executive director at Gleaners, but I've also been kind of rooting myself in other things that I'm passionate about, and one of those is writing. I love to write, and I love to help organizations, and I like to help people. So I became a certified grant writer in December. And then I just graduated with my master's in public administration with a focus on like nonprofit systems and government policy.
Wow.
So between the certificate and then with my master's degree, I've been really entering into a space of teaching like equity-based fundraising and more grant writing to other nonprofits, specifically within like the gleaning field, or the gleaning community.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a cool experience to teach that. And
I love that, because when you first started working at Gleaners, you probably had no idea what, you weren't like, okay, well, in 4 years I'm going to be a certified grant writer.
Yeah.
I love how like you just never know what you're going to,
right?
Like, but you saw the need,
yeah,
and then you slowly started accumulating all these skills.
Yeah. 5 years ago, if you told me that I would be writing grants for organizations across the country and running an organization that is growing drastically, I would have laughed in your face, probably. Like, there's just no way. Or teaching or going out and speaking at events. And I've spoken at several events. One was like an international women's conference earlier this year about like food justice and like how it's a component of like the women's movement and why women need to consider like poverty reduction models and food justice and their activism work. So yeah, 5 years ago, I would never have believed you.
Well, also, I mean, I don't think that this is something that many 20-year-olds do. So, I mean, I always hate to like bring age up, but like really, like that's pretty awesome for a 29-year-old. So,
Thanks.
You're welcome. What's your favorite topic to speak on? Like, if you could give a talk on anything.
Yeah, I based my entire theses on food insecurity for migrant farm workers in Skagit County, and so any topic that's around like race and racism in the food system, or anything about food justice when it pertains to like migrant farm workers, that's my favorite thing to talk about, just because there's so much misconception out there about like migrant farm workers in general, and I like being able to talk to predominantly white people who just don't know. Yeah. and you know, it's always nice, it's enlightening to see the eyes widen in their room when you get to share new things that they have never had to consider. Well,
you have a white person right here that doesn't know. Okay. So I was gonna say, what are some big misconceptions?
Sure. Yeah, the biggest misconception is people assume that undocumented migrant farm workers, like they get all types of access to like state benefits, or like there's lots of help out there for low income people. But what people don't know is that migrant farm workers, because they do not have authorized work, because they don't have work authorizations, they're actually not eligible for some of the state benefits like TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or even SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
They're not eligible for that?
They're only eligible under certain type of restrictions. Like there's certain provisions. So like you have to have a child, for example, born in the States in order for you to be eligible for SNAP.
Oh.
But what people don't realize is like, okay, so like as a person who is a citizen here, like, okay, well that makes sense because they're not documented, so like they're not contributing to like those pool of funds that go to pay for those services,
like taxes,
right? Taxes.
Yeah.
But like what people don't realize is that in 1996 there was an IRS provision that created what's called the ITIN number, ITIN, and so like 95% of undocumented farm workers or undocumented workers in general pay into these taxpayer pools, but then they're not eligible for those same services. So there's a big disconnect, and we see this with data. We see that food insecurity permeates these communities at rates much higher than their white counterparts. Food insecurity is like 8% of white folks are food insecure, whereas you look at Latino, it's like 17%, but then you get into like undocumented farm workers, the rates go up to 40 to 50% of migrant farm workers are food insecure compared to 8% of the white counterparts. And so these are just things that aren't talked about and people don't know.
Well, and I had a friend who was here a couple weeks ago, a musician. Basically, people come in as strangers and they're friends. And he was saying that he was homeless for, I think, about a year in Portland. And he was, I think he might have been homeless somewhere else too at some point, maybe Florida. But he was saying how, you know, something about how he went on a date with this girl and he hadn't eaten for 2 days. And I was like, how could you not eat for 2 days? Aren't there food banks everywhere? And so we talked about how, you know, it was a few years ago, so smartphones weren't everywhere. But also I was thinking, as you were explaining this, I'm sure there is such a level of like, it's hard to feel safe to reach out. Mm-hmm. Because you never, I mean, are these workers nervous that like if they start to ask questions, someone else is going to ask them questions, right? And then, you know,
the like, fear of deportation. Yeah. And I won't. I won't say which food bank does this has happened at a local food bank here where and I won't say names, but there used to be a time where immigrants would get bused to the food bank where they would be able to get food, but at some of these food banks, ICE would be waiting for them.
What?
And it doesn't happen anymore, but it has happened, and so that stigma is built. That stigma is very, very real for these families. So there's a lot of mistrust and stigma when it comes to them receiving services and you know, going into a government agency to try to get services when you don't have a valid work authorization. It's a very intimidating thing.
Yeah. Or if you, I mean, I think maybe if someone comes up here and they have some family they could maybe figure it out. But what if you don't have any family up here and hello, there's the language barrier,
right?
You know, like when we were going through the process of, I got it's called a K1 fiance visa to move here, and we were filling it out, and I was just blown away. I'm like, okay, I have 2 degrees, CJ has 1. English is our first language. It was so confusing. I said, no wonder, you know, people don't do this all the time, because I can barely figure this out. I can't imagine if English was not our first language, like how we would even figure this out. No, you can't afford a lawyer.
Right. And it's expensive. It's like more than $5,000 to like sponsor a family member to get citizenship here. It's insane. It's very expensive.
Yeah. So, how did this kind of first come on your radar? Maybe just being at Gleaners?
Yeah.
Talking to people, or?
I would say during the pandemic, I was like elbows deep into like food system work at that point. Just trying to get food out to people, and I really saw the shortfalls. I kept looking at the makeup of Gleaners and the makeup at the food banks, and you know, asking myself, where are all the migrant farm workers at? Why are they not being reached? Why are they not here?
Oh, like you're expecting more to be at Gleaners.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and other food banks too.
Yeah.
Where are they? And so that's when I really started exploring, you know, why are they disproportionately represented in these food service agencies? Like how do we reach them? It just really highlighted like this deficit, or this, and then you know, you get into those questions and you start researching, and then you realize like, wow, this group is just disproportionately served when it comes to food access. And so
I was thinking, have you sat down with a migrant worker and just asked them straight out, like, you know, one that obviously trusts you?
Yeah. So I had a great opportunity to base my theses on this, and so I did a lot of qualitative research, sitting down with people who were directly impacted, and then also people who work specifically with this group, and was able to collect a lot of data and information and for my research. So that's sort of guided all of this.
Wow, that's really cool.
Thank you.
I think it's something that I've never thought of ever. I just think, no, there's food banks everywhere. Why would anybody be hungry here? You know?
Right. I mean, there are food banks here, but another thing that I found with my research is that unfortunately, food banks, they're getting better, but like some of the schedules, the distribution times that food banks have, they're just not conducive to farm worker work schedules. The hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like what we really need is we need food banks to be open like Sunday morning or like Saturday afternoon when they're like not working in the field.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, I did a presentation on like just kind of equity-based fundraising and like equity-based grant writing. So really looking at like how nonprofits are structured, like how they're funded, like who gets to be on nonprofit boards. And it's when you start like digging into that, it's very it's a very paternalistic atmosphere. So like I don't know if you want me to elaborate.
Does that mean a lot of men?
I mean,
sorry.
it means that there's a lot of people making decisions for the community and they're not even consulting the community that they're serving. Like in layman's terms, it's a bunch of people of privilege and of power who serve on these boards, who are enacting these services or deciding to do these services, but they're not even including like the people being serviced in the decision making. So they're deciding like this is what's best for you. And it's just really yucky.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of misconceptions about grant writing and like fundraising in general too. Like people think like, oh yeah, you can do it really quick, like whip out a grant in an hour or whatever. And it's not. Your grant writing, the organization's funding and how they allocate the funding, that really sets the priorities of the organization. So when you're going out and you're getting funding for an organization, you're doing more than just that. Like you're aligning the programs. Like you're literally you're setting the values of the organization. And so you really need to be in the know of like their budget priorities, like the values of their staff, like what's their vision, not just their mission, but and if it doesn't align with like the grant maker and so forth, then you're better off looking elsewhere.
So do people hire you to write them grants?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But it's not just like, I'm just thinking of like, say like a college kid writes like a term paper. Like to some people, that's what a grant is. But you would have to learn about the whole company, like you said, learn about their values and everything and what they want. And that's research that takes quite a while.
Research on that, and then research on the need in the community that they're filling, because you have to make a compelling story. You need to show the grant writer, like, this is what's going on, this is the disparity of the lived experiences that vulnerable populations are experiencing, and just being able to write a compelling story against that. So, like, I mean, I have 4 clients right now, and they're all different areas. Like, one of the clients that I write for is an organization that serves young adults with disabilities. So I'm constantly doing research on how are these communities like disproportionately served in our community. Another organization that I write for is like a childcare center. So like I'm dabbling into like educational grants and childcare center grants, and then another organization that I write grants for is like a gleaning organization. So then I get to constantly be refreshing on my research about food waste and hand harvest gleaning and backyard gleaning, which is really cool. And yeah, so it's a great job to have if you like researching, which I do. So
well, I was gonna say, like, even just like the disability thing, like that's just gonna send you down another rabbit hole of like,
oh yeah, yeah. You have to have this. I mean, maybe this isn't the right way to say this, but you do have to have the stomach for it, because like it can be really disheartening figuring, like, getting all this data and doing this research, but it's so rewarding when you do get a grant for that organization. Like you had a direct impact in moving the needle for that population, and so it is really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Are
most grants just like a one-time thing, or is there are they often like a yearly thing? Like, how does that work? Or I guess they're all different.
They're all different. A lot of grant makers, after like 3 years, they don't like to keep funding you. They like like they'll want you to take like a 1-year hiatus and then apply again.
Yeah.
Because they want to keep funding new initiatives.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of them, I notice that I'll get for like 3 consecutive years, and then that 4th year I won't get it, and then I'll apply again that 5th year and I'll get it. So yeah.
Do you always have like a little celebration when you get a grant?
I mean, I think I used to. It depends on the amount, I guess. Like I celebrate when I get a grant that's over like $100,000 at a time. That's when I celebrate.
$100,000. That's a lot.
Yeah.
What's the biggest grant you've got?
The biggest grant I've gotten so far has been $125,000.
Wow. And who was that for?
Gleaners.
What?
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And I just applied for one earlier this week for Gleaners again. That's another $125,000. So fingers crossed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is that just like to keep the operations going? Like I'm curious what is that for?
Yeah, so the one that we just got is through the Department of Ecology, and that one is going to do 3 things. One, it's going to let us hire a part-time field gleaning coordinator, so it's going to like beef up our hand harvest gleaning program, which is great. And then it's also going to allow us to purchase more gleaning and hand harvest supplies for just regular gleaning activities. But the third thing that is included in that grant, which is really exciting, it's going to allow us to implement a food preservation like education program. So gleaner families get to participate in this in these food preservation programs for free, and then we're also going to be purchasing a bunch of equipment that might be too expensive for families to be able to acquire to do certain like food preservation work, and then they get to rent out this equipment from Gleaners for free, and then we get to share it with it's like a library checkout system. So
that's amazing.
That's really exciting. I'm excited to launch that program. It's gonna be rolling out within the next month or so. So
yeah,
it's gonna be exciting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So do you have like these crazy awesome pie in the sky like visions for Gleaners for the next few years?
Oh my god, yes. It keeps me awake like way too often.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Is Gleaners here connected with the one in Ferndale?
No.
Okay.
No.
I wasn't sure.
And I don't know.
So are we like the only Gleaners?
As far as I know, there's an organization in Portland, Oregon called Birch Community Services that our model was sort of based off of, but we're a little bit different still. We're pretty unique.
Yeah, I know. When I tell people about it, like when they're from out of town, they're like, how does this even exist? I'm like, I don't know why it doesn't. If there's a Costco in your town and a Safeway, why wouldn't, I'm just thinking of those two stores alone. We get so much stuff from them. And the stores that we're getting food from those stores are chain stores in every city. So where does all that food go?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think your listeners, have you explained to your listeners what Gleaners is?
Maybe not. Because I just say, I'll just take you guys.
Oh, okay.
Well, basically what I do, I just say it's essentially a food bank that you pay to be a member at.
Just because there's a lot of stigma around the food bank word, I tend to explain it to people as we're a cooperative. So,
okay.
So Skagit Gleaners, we're a food recovery and rescue program. So all the food that we get in is food that would have otherwise been thrown away at grocery stores.
That too.
Oh,
yeah,
good. Yeah. So it's more than just helping families receive affordable access to food. There's a big piece of it is keeping abundant food out of the landfill. And to give you an idea, last year we kept 1.5 million pounds of food out of the landfill just in Skagit County alone. The year before that, it was 2.2 million pounds of food. So it's just we serve a wide variety of folks. We do serve some folks who are low income, but the majority of the families that come to Skagit Gleaners are families who want to be frugal, waste conscious, and want to contribute to a community type style cooperative where we're all contributing, we're all participating, we're all benefiting. And I will say that there is some misconception about what the membership revenue goes towards. So the membership fees, it goes to just run the organization, keep the lights on, keep the doors open, pays rent, and then any extra programs or things that you see come out of Gleaners, like the food preservation classes, or when we're out purchasing produce, all of that is funded through grants that I go out and seek. So the membership revenue is just used to cover daily operations stuff.
Yeah. Is that something that you've heard in the past that
there's
not the first time you heard
I try to clarify that now when because everyone has an opinion about everything. So people will I don't want my membership revenue going towards this, or my membership going towards this. I'm like, don't worry, it's going for the electric bill this month. You have nothing to worry about. I totally attribute I attribute that to being a single mom. I so desperately wanted to get out of retail. Anyone who's worked retail knows what I'm talking about. You have no life. Working 1 to 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when you have a 6-month-old at home just is not conducive. And working weekends, holidays, I have such mad respect for people who work retail.
And you have one daughter, right?
Just one.
I know. I have one too. I don't know how, you see families that come into Gleaners with 5 kids.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, you figure it out, obviously. But it's, gosh, so admirable.
Yeah, I definitely don't have the patience for that.
Yeah.
One's enough.
Do you think that does your daughter ever because she comes to work with you sometimes, I see her there, does she ever ask you questions about work, or, do you guys talk about it?
Yeah
I'm constantly just pouring into Olive I turn everything into a lesson.
Yeah, that's great.
Terrible, poor girl. But I'm just wondering, because your daughter's how old?
She's 6.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, every day she's learning more and more. What kind of stuff does she ask you, or what do you guys talk about? Yeah,
well, she grew up in Gleaners, so she's been coming to work with me since she was 6 months old. I used to put her in a banana box and shove her under my desk, and I mean, she wouldn't come every day, but she definitely has seen the progression of Gleaners, and as she's gotten older, there's negatives and there's positives. One, she doesn't, because she gets so much of her stuff at Gleaners, she doesn't quite understand the value of $1. And we'll go to a regular store and she'll just be like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I'm like, girl, we actually have to pay money for that. This isn't Gleaners, and she doesn't understand that. So that's one negative thing about growing up in Gleaners. But the majority of it's positive. She learns to help, and she's there and she's helping me close down the market, putting bread away. day. We're talking about, food waste and how to you use what we get first and don't waste food and eat your leftovers. And, we're not going to eat all of this chicken. So let's bring back and share with some other Gleaner families. Like, it's that sense of community. Whenever she's at Gleaner, she's there working with me. And I think that's another key thing that she's taken away. Also, we all pitch in. So, like, even if I tell her, like, I'll have her go in and clean the child care room, and she's like, Mom, I didn't make any of this mess though. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's part of being a community. Like we help out, even if you didn't make the mess, we help out, because one day there's gonna be a day where you can't clean up and someone else is gonna clean up after you.
Yeah.
And so just like having that mindset is so important, I think, to teach our children, and also getting out and being in the dirt. So, like, she's gone out to fields and gleaned with me and done some hand harvest work. And, like, we talk about, like, where the food comes from. She gets to see it. She gets to, pull it out of the dirt and then bring it back to our market, and then gets to see another, child take it home. And it's just a cool cycle for her to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so when you're not writing grants and at Gleaners and working and giving speeches, what do you do? What do you like to do for fun?
We like to be outdoors. Like, we're a very outdoorsy family. We travel. I try to, if you can travel with your children, please do it. Like, that's like my only advice that I'll give here on this podcast.
Why is that?
It's so much is taught. Like, they develop just a worldly sense. Like, even if it's just going to like another state that's close by, them just being around different types of cultures and people, it just normalizes it more. And even just getting down to Seattle, I try to take her down to Seattle as much as I can, because it's just such a mix of different types of people than what we see up here in Skagit. So we travel a lot. We spend a lot of time outdoors, kayaking, hiking. We do a lot of reading. We play way too much, I think. We're at Jungle Playland like once a week. Nice. And the Children's Museum probably. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your tattoo all about?
People, you're gonna laugh at this. So I got this when I was 18, and my best friend was doing like an apprenticeship at a tattoo parlor in
town,
in Smoky Point.
Okay.
And she just needed to like practice like certain types of things, and so I was just her human canvas, and so that's that.
Well, I have my eyebrows microbladed.
Oh, cool.
Like, tattooed, and my friend that did it, she's a perfectionist, and she had to get it right before she tried on anyone. She didn't want to mess it up. Her husband's got a bunch of tattoos. He has a whole bunch of eyebrows now on his thigh.
Oh, that is
she
funny.
She was practicing on it.
That is awesome. What a good man.
I just thought of that. So at least you got really, a giant piece out of it.
Yeah.
And, did you have a say in what?
No, I mean, I just let her do whatever she wanted. I was like,
it's quite a big piece to get like a test one on. It's really good.
Yeah, and she did it all freehand too. Like, there was no like stencil.
Really?
Yeah, she's really good. She's a really good tattoo. I don't think she's doing any tattooing now.
I was gonna say why?
Yeah, I know she should. I think she went off to do different things, but
yeah. Are you gonna get any more?
I don't know.
Everyone's always said like no one ever dies with one tattoo. Like, they're kind of contagious.
I have a couple on my legs that people don't normally see.
Oh,
yeah. Whenever I have an elephant and a tree.
Okay.
So
what do those symbolize?
The elephant, I've just always loved elephants, so I had to get an elephant. And then the tree, I was 18 again, and it's a big piece of just black. It's a huge black tree, and it's turned out okay. Like, he tried talking me out of it when I was 18. I was like,
the tattoo artist?
Yeah, the tattoo artist. Because it's all black. So he was like, you're not gonna like this. He's gonna turn into a big black blob in 15 years. But so far it hasn't.
I hear people say like, well, when you're 60 at the nursing home or whatever, 70 at the nursing home, what's that gonna look like? I'm like, if I was in a nursing home and I saw two old ladies. One of them was covered in tattoos and one of them wasn't. Guess who I'm going to go talk to?
Right. Yeah.
You look like you have some stories.
Yeah. When
I asked what you do for fun, you said a bunch of stuff that you like to do with your daughter. How about you? What does Morgan do by herself in her spare time?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't have that. I like to work. No.
Yeah. I read and I like to cycle. I do indoor cycling. And I recently just started. I just got like a street bike or like a bicycle, bicycle. And so I've been riding my bike outside, which has been great.
Yeah.
And I love Hotworks. So here's a shout out to Hotworks.
Oh, I've heard of that place.
Oh my God, it is awesome.
It's basically like a giant sauna that you work out in?
Yes.
Okay.
It has been a game changer for me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you do in there? Do you cycle?
Yeah, I do hot cycle and then I do hot Pilates or hot yoga.
Oh.
It's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I do hot yoga at Quantum in Burlington, or I used to. And that was... I couldn't do regular yoga after that. I was like, no, it has to be hot yoga.
Yeah. You burn so many calories because it being in the sauna doing the workout. Well, because you do hot yoga.
Yeah.
So
and we have a sauna downstairs.
Oh, awesome.
And I think it says the first warning on there is like, if you feel uncomfortable, get out. And I'm like, no, that's when like it really starts. Like,
yeah,
I think CJ and I both, I don't know about him, but I know he stays in a lot longer than he probably should. I stay in for an hour. It's the best. I mean, just dumping buckets for at least half an hour straight. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah, and then add a workout and add Pilates, that core workout. Like,
no, I'm just sitting there.
Yeah, it's you.
How long can you stay in there and do that?
45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. The sessions are 45 minutes, but
are you in there by yourself?
You can like book your sessions, and you can. The sessions are 45 minutes long for like hot Pilates, but for like the HIIT workouts, so the high intensity interval training, those are in 15-minute increments. So you can have up to 3 people in the sauna with you, but I try to book them to where it's just me because, I don't want to. Yeah. Kind of weird. It's like a cramped space, so you want to kind of be alone.
This one time I was at hot yoga and this guy was beside me and obviously he was sweating a lot. And at one point we were laying down on our stomachs, I think, and like with your arms kind of underneath you. And at one point I think we all like turned our head the same way. And so I think I turned my head to the right or something, but there was like this river of sweat that was coming towards me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And even like when he flopped down, it was like a fish, I could just hear his bat. I was thinking, I thought I sweat a lot.
Yeah.
So I can see why you'd want to be by yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, where are they located?
In Burlington, right next to Costco and BECU.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, cool. And then you mentioned traveling. So if you could like just fly to any country, where would you want to take your daughter?
I would go to the Maldives. Okay, so it's just beautiful. Okay. Like it's a little island out there. Like the waters are just super like coral. Like this is like this really blue coral.
Yeah.
I've heard that the snorkeling's really great.
Cool.
It's white sands, just beautiful.
Yeah.
But everything's like imported there. It's very expensive.
Oh, like you can't grow anything, or
I don't know. You could probably grow stuff. I'm not sure, but like everything's just pretty expensive. So like if money wasn't an object, like I would go there, but like I don't know. Realistically, I think that like the next place that we go will most likely be we've never been to Europe, so we'll probably do a couple Europe countries.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Are you like, is your, like, say, grandparents, are they from Europe at all? Or where's your family from?
That's a really great question. I'm like, sure.
And, like, what's it called? What's that DNA test everyone does? Where you, send your spit away.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of them out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're from, if I were to do it, it would show that my descendants are from Europe.
I was teaching 4th grade, and my students would tell me, like, they were from Mexico. I'm like, okay, where are you from? And they would like show me on the map, and I get so excited. Or some of them would like even be gone for a month, and they come back. I'm like, tell me everything you did. And they're just like, I just went to my family's. I'm like, yeah, but like, what did you do? Like, I thought it was so interesting because what I knew before of Mexico was like, you go to Cancun or you go to Puerto Vallarta and you like kayak and you lay by the beach. And I'm like, that's not Mexico.
Yeah.
It's just resort town, which is fine.
But I recommend my friends to go, like, try going to Guayabitos or La Penita.
Have you been there?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, lots of times. Me and my daughter, we love Mexico. But
nice.
We've been to Cancun, we've been to Puerto Vallarta.
But why do you go to those places?
So Guayabitos is... it's still touristy, but not as much as Puerto Vallarta, so you still get that... the local vibe, and it's great, and it's supporting the local economy. La Penita is right next to Guayabitos, and it's a little bit smaller even, so even more of that local vibe, which is great.
What are some like great local things that you would do when you get there? Like, what are some things that you would do there that, like, let's say you wouldn't do at a resort?
Well, street vendors for one. Like the tacos that you get at resorts are like nothing compared to what you would find like on the street, and they're so delicious. Like the food is just unmatched when you get it more from like the smaller areas versus from resorts.
Yeah. So if someone wants to go to Gleaners, I mean, I always tell them the website, and on Heidi's description of her episode, I put the website too, but I personally think that people just need to come in. Is that what you normally tell people too?
I encourage people, even when they do inquire on the website. We did redo our website. It launched in like February of this year, and so a lot of people's questions can't get answered on the website, which is great. But even when they inquiry on the website, we end up responding to them. Still come in, receive a free shop-in tour to learn about the program, see what you can get, and then if you think it's a good fit for you and your family, then we can sign you up.
Yeah, I always tell people too, like, even if you come and it's just not your jam, that's cool. But you might know someone that this could change their life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. For migrant farm workers, we are a food bank to them because we waive their membership contribution for if you're a farm worker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how, we are a food bank in a way. The way that this program, it's called our family referral program. So families who have children that are newly registered into the school district due to like their parents moving from working in fields.
Yeah.
When each one of those families gets assigned like a migrant liaison at the school, and then like they come and do like an interview with the family and kind of assess their needs and see what they need. In that process, they get a free voucher, a year-long membership to Skagit Gleaners, and so that migrant family gets to come to Skagit Gleaners and use our services for free. They still contribute to the volunteerism of the organization, but because we wanted to recognize like disparate gaps in like agricultural wages and things like that, we don't want to require those families to have to be economically responsible for contributing to the membership fee, which is $39 a month.
Yeah.
So and all that's grant funded. Like we were able to launch that program because we got grants to basically
you got grants
to sponsor families to do that. So yes, in some ways you can say we're a food bank because we make these targeted programs to be a food bank for some families, but for in other ways we're a cooperative model. And it would be remiss if I didn't also say that we're more than just like a food assistance agency. Like we're not just like a reactive agency. Like we're not just like reacting to like, oh, like food insecurity is a problem, so like here's a box of food. Like we're starting to grow our own food too. So we're really developing like more of a community driven food system. Yeah. So earlier this year we got a piece of land to launch a pilot project for us to start growing our own food. And
where is that?
It's in Burlington, right behind the Seventh-day Adventist Church on Highway 20.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's been just this remarkable program that every week now we're out there harvesting and bringing back 100 or so pounds of fresh produce that we grew. And there's another church that I won't say their name because we're still like in the contract piece of it, but that has a big lawn, empty space that they're not using, and they want us. It's a little bit less than an acre. They want us to come out and open up another farm there, garden, community garden. So we're tapping into these different spaces to where we're not just like handing people food, but we're creating a system where we're creating more community resiliency and sustainability, where we're able to grow our own food instead of just relying on other the natures of the laws of nature, I guess. So
see, I wanted you on here to teach other people about Gleaners, but you're like opening my eyes. I love it. And I've been a Gleaner for like 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm not very observant though, so
that's okay.
All right. So go to Gleaners. Have you guys ever thought about changing the hours? I'm not saying you have to. I'm just curious. I've always seen the exact same hours the 4 years I've been going, and you were just talking about hours and equity and stuff. Just curious.
Yeah, we've extended our hours so that families have a larger window to shop. And
Yeah.
then we're also right in the process. This isn't quite like
I won't
public
publish
knowledge yet, but we're. I mean, you can publish. You can publish it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't know when. Within the next couple months, we're going to open up like a Saturday evening type
cool.
of distribution. So
Yeah.
I just need to get. I need to just get our inventory to a certain level before we can launch that. So it's going to take. There's a couple other things going through the works that we're working on. We just got. Certified with the state to be a temporary emergency food assistance program.
Wow.
So we got like state certification, and then we got so that allows us to be able to tap into some more of like some state resources and like state food and some federal allocation dollars. So those things need to come in first before we can launch this Saturday evening distribution. But that distribution or shop time is going to be really intentional to try to encourage more just folks who like, not even just migrant farm workers, but folks who like just work during the day, Monday through Friday, and maybe who are in church Sunday morning. So, or, you know, you need one day where,
Or some people work Monday through Saturday.
right. Yeah. And so
then church on Sunday, when can you go?
right. And I think the vast majority of people, they have like a Saturday evening at least every once in a while where they can come get food. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so it would be a Saturday morning and a Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
my goal.
yeah.
But I still got to work out a few kinks.
Yeah.
So-
well, if anyone can do it, you can. Just write a grant for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we just did, so we'll see.
Well, I mean, like I said, like not many, 29-year-olds?
Yeah, 29.
29-year-olds have done what you do and also raise a daughter. And
Thank you.
So give yourself a pat on the back.
Thanks, girl.
All right. Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks.